Okay,
I'm gonna put it back on CMR.
I'll call this meeting to order. Roll call. Let's see, Rodney, you wanna give the roll call, please?
Are we recording?
Or,
Being recorded?
Do you have them? I don't have them.
okay, so Rafael Dueñez,
Present.
Dr. Rodney Rodriguez,
Present.
John Villarreal, here.
Arturo
Dr.
Dominguez
Rodriguez,
here.
here.
Julian Manosky.
Manosky, here.
So for the
Mayra
remaining,
Hernandez,
Absent.
Alma Carrillo, Alma Acevedo,
Absent.
and Joe Maldonado.
and Fred Dickey,
Absent.
And Joe Maldonado.
and Joe Maldonado.
Absent.
So-
Actually, he has already had his
He's
3 absences and it's a vacancy.
Okay.
So we have a quorum. Okay, we don't have any minutes from last time, so we'll go straight to the discussion. The discussion is on possible action on the status of interviews held on June 17th and 18th for the Economic Development Director position, and providing a recommendation to city management and any matters incidental thereto. I believe Human Resources has a tally of what we, from the interviews, what we tallied, and I guess y'all will give us a presentation, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what I should have done.
Such a hacker.
Perfect. Yep, that's what I thought. Tell that to him, madam.
Your
Sorry,
middle
madam.
is Ivan? Or Ivan? Oh, we weren't as.
Oh,
If
man.
you want to try, I think so. Not. Just go for
So,
So what you can see on the sheet, there's just the tallies, all the way to the right, the total scores, and then Charles included the ranking, on the far right side. Are there any questions that you have regarding rankings, totals?
We didn't use the questions that we did, right, that we used.
The questions that you individually
Yeah.
Yeah.
said, yeah,
Yeah.
they were
You
used.
tallied them all.
They were part of the tally. If there were additional ones that might have been scored, I didn't include it as part of this one. That way it stayed even in
Yeah,
regards
but some skipped, some weren't there. I don't
and
think.
those were counted as zero.
Oh,
So the scores are a little
off.
off?
I do have a question in regards to taking action. You guys had said that there was going to be another interview with the city manager? Or would we be, if we decide to act on it today, that would be voided?
I don't know what the previous,
What?
so there would be a secondary, so is this a recommendation that, let's say, top 2 candidates go to you and Cabello for interview?
Yes.
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 The top how many?
what's that now?
No,
It's
whatever. Top two.
Yeah, whatever you all,
Top 2.
yeah.
Whatever you guys decide, whatever numbers.
So top 2.
So, I mean,
just
what was the
one.
question, and so.
Yeah, we have to.
The question was, in regards to the interviews, are there gonna be another set of interviews done after the ones that you all did by management?
Okay,
So if you all, depending on from the ranking, you'll determine how many of those you wanna proceed to go towards the city managers for their consideration. In other words, your recommendation from the ones that got interviewed.
okay, so, as far as our recommendation, what do y'all want us to do? Y'all want us to, I'm sorry,
I'm
Rodney, go
sorry, I
ahead.
have a comment before we get there. So what would the second round of interview questions look like with management? If we already went through the whole process of finding the candidate with the economic development experience, education, what would management be asking?
Relative to city organization, relative to department collaboration, relative to, ultimately, again, we're charged with hiring
And so we ultimately should understand also, we were part of the questioning as well. And so, you know,
I believe there were some questions related to departments in the questions that were already asked.
Right.
There were other questions that I think pretty much covered the working relationship with entities and.
Right.
Yeah, there was a question that covered the entities outside of the city, and there was a question that covered the first 100 days of what they would do within the city.
I'm just curious, I mean, because it just, to me, I just feel, I don't want the candidates to have to go through another needless round of questioning if they've already gone through the process. You see what I'm saying?
Sure. I think though, you know, in respect to what the charge of the committee was, that's gonna be obviously taken into consideration, but ultimately too, we're charged with hiring. We haven't even sat across the table from any of the candidates personally, so we wouldn't be able to do that blindly. But again, rest assured that we're gonna be taking score sheets and all the work that you've done. I mean, and with everything else too, we've done this with other departments where we've had the planning director have even a council member present and watching how it's been done. And so this is not outside of what's been done as well. And I would hope that these individuals, whoever they want to work here, would want to sit across the table and have a discussion at least with the city manager, seeing that we ultimately oversee the department. So, yeah, I mean, if they're gonna be scared away in whatever way, that, because they're gonna have, you know, an interview across the table from us.
No, I don't think that's the case. What the point I'm trying to make is that it just would feel, if I was an applicant and then I met again with individuals, I would understand regarding, okay, well, this is a position, this is what your expectations are, and this and that. But if we're gonna ask again all these questions again, well, you know, what's your education, what's your work experience? Then it's like I just told the previous committee, and,
It defeats the purpose.
you know, I can understand like the organizational structure, the
I think you're gonna
culture.
ask
Yeah.
a separate set of questions that, like you said, that are tailored to how it
The
fits
field.
in with the actual organization within
Yeah,
the city.
yeah, I mean,
What reason one of them is
And can they
interviewing
get
a year and a
along
half
with?
year later again for the same
It's like
position.
5 interviews.
Mhm.
You know, so.
So, with that being said, are you stating that everyone we interviewed is going to be, or, so whatever, as long as we choose 2 or 3 or whatever that number may be, that's just more than one?
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, rest assured that we're gonna be entirely sensitive to the work y'all have done. I mean, that's exactly why we wanted everybody in this room to get to that point. But also too, we're ultimately held accountable for, you know, what happens with the city. We need to make sure that we sit across the table by oath. Right. And so we answer to the council, you know, directly, and then these individuals will answer as well. And so, yeah, they're not gonna be asked, believe me, the same questions. They're gonna be tailored more to us and how they see themselves working as a group within our team, more relative stuff like that, because y'all have gone over the experience and all that. And we trust that that's already been checked up, because that was a charge of the committee. And it's really serving up these top 2, top 3, and you've even scored them accordingly. And so we'll definitely recognize that.
For me, I'm sorry?
I just was curious about the salary. Is there a salary amount?
So that would be relative to a couple different things. There's a range that we would be working within, but seeing that it's an entirely new position, you know, we'd have to look at like positions in other cities. And then not only that, we actually marry it up with like jobs within our city as well. And so,
So they applied for a job that doesn't have a salary?
yeah, there is a range, right? So there's an established range.
Is that
And they
public?
put asking prices.
Yeah, I think it's in the,
Is it public? Do you
The
know what the
range,
range is?
Did we, I don't know how, what conversations.
It might have been placed as negotiable, but the actual position has a salary range.
Oh, what is?
What is it?
It was like 90 to 130 or something like that, I believe.
Should pull it out, exactly. It's a 44? 44?
I recommend just the top two. You don't need to go with it.
So we're not gonna pick one.
Well, I think we can discuss what our
Yes.
ultimate
I think what
recommendation
we
will
need to do is
be.
for them to, since they put this together, is to present this and then we can have discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, there we go.
Do you want to sign in, please?
Okay, so the salary is between, and this is annual, between 73,000, and the midpoint is 98,000, but then there's also a maximum that would probably be about 115, 120 more or less. But ultimately, it's up to management what they decide.
For the record, we have another committee member, Ms. Mayra Hernandez, that's present.
I just had a question for the city manager. Right now, we're gonna move to action and recommend both of top two candidates, or as many as they decide, which seems like it's two. Could we also discuss and present who we believe is number one, just for the sake of?
I hope you would,
Okay.
Yeah.
right?
Deal. Perfect.
That's exactly the kind of stuff we need to hear. And the reasons, right? I mean, that,
Yeah.
in all fairness, that we can understand kind of what you saw as community leaders and people from that perspective.
Yeah, because I think it's safe to say, especially if we go with the top two, neither are incorrect decisions. It's just directions that they would most likely take the city, and I think that's what the difference of opinion is going to be from everyone. Should we open that up
Yeah,
for discussion?
motion.
I motion up
Second.
to,
Motion.
I motion to open up discussion about who each committee member believes is the best candidate and why.
Okay, well, let's do that. Ms. Hernandez, we'll start with you. And by the way, if you haven't looked at it, you
Yeah.
can see the column where you're at, and
And so I see that Teclo Garcia and Ismael Delgado are the top candidates, correct?
yes, ma'am.
For me, I have to omit myself in terms of comment for Ismael Delgado because I was not present at the time when he was interviewed, but I was present for Teclo Garcia, and again, I think that his understanding of a Porter Town needs and the experience he has, the diverse experience that he's bringing is definitely something that I do advocate a lot for. You do need a lot of transferable skills from all perspectives. He comes from the political, or not political, but understands politics and the importance of building those relationships, understands economic development, understands how to connect beyond the transportation needs, is where else are we headed, and so for me, that's what, he was definitely one of my top, if not the top candidate.
Very good. Julian?
So my initial statement pretty much stands. I really do think Teclo and Ismael are, there's not a bad decision between either of them.
Right.
But after those interviews, you know, I dove into more information about each of them individually. And I think the difference between the candidates is we have Teclo, which seems very kind of like was raised in economic development, learning on the job, and has gained a lot of experience in that. And then we had Ismael, which had a little less experience. But what really stood out to me on Ismael is reading his professional biography and seeing what he focused on, which is endogenous growth theory in his studies. And he kind of made a statement during the interview process that I think grew out of this, and he made a statement saying economic development isn't you know, necessarily bringing companies through certain processes, but it's creating it from its core. And so this theory that he studied has to do with basically creating economic development by targeting quality of life and education, everything, and growing it out of the community, which you know, I constantly see that statistic that we have a lot of single mothers that you know, aren't generating enough income. Was it 32% of our population is in poverty? And I think a lot of that falls on the fact that, you know, and in other cities too, that economic development hasn't really been focusing on, you know, having a two-pronged approach. One where, yes, you need to bring in those companies and businesses and have that opportunity. But two, start focusing on developing it within the community and entrepreneurs and providing, you know, a good example is Mile One, which is an incubator that provides opportunity to individuals, but also on the education side. So to me, he was the one that just eked out slightly more. And I feel like, especially since we are a very strong trade community, and one of the things that I think is really needed is a diversification of our economy, our local economy. And I feel that he may have the tools to and have that perspective to provide that change that we need. And that's my opinion.
Well, I see the scores, and yes, Teclo scored the highest, but I think the thing that caught my eye with Ismael was his vision on something that somebody was looking at, the San Juan project, the dealerships that he brought in. That really is something out of the box. And that's really what I liked from him. He talked a lot about the comp plan. He knew a lot of it. He spoke to it about a lot of it, on the issues. And I think, to me personally, if I had to vote today, I would go with Ismael. I think and in his application, he said he wanted 100,000, and Tecla wanted 120. So I think that also caught my eye, that we can get him for a better price as well. And I think he brings a lot of knowledge in the economic development. Even though there were only 40,000 in his population, I think he accomplished a good. He caught my eye with the dealership things, and I would go with Ismael if I were to vote today.
For me, I would go with Mr. Teclo Garcia. I mean, Mr. Delgado. I mean, he did have that, you know, that one accomplishment. I mean, yeah, he's a guy, but it's also the location of the area, and it's sort of more mid-valley. So there's a location of the area. Of course, it could have gone far. It could have gone to Alamo. Could have gone Weslaco, further down. But he also didn't expand on any other economic development successes that he had. I think Mr. Garcia, Teclo Garcia, he did expand. He's been in several economic development. He's worked in several different areas, for different entities, and I just believe he can hit the ground running. He's a little bit older. I think he has a good feel for the master plan. Has a very good feel for how we work here on the border. So I would go with him. I think the third one, Mr. David Monkman, I think was also good. I think he could, you know, maybe sometimes we also need to bring people that are not the same. We need to, like y'all mentioned, think out of the box. And, in my opinion, I just think Teclo has a lot of experience, not only on a small city, but has been into larger cities and several.
Dr. Rodney Rodriguez, for the record. I believe that you know, there's really good candidates here, and I want to commend the HR department for really weeding these individuals out. Because they were very, very qualified, they were very articulate, they had a lot of professional background in their respective fields. I'm with the top three. I think Mr. David Monkman was very impressive. He seemed to be very well-rounded regarding international affairs, international business, very articulate. I believe that he would be a great representation for Laredo. Mr. Elgado, you know, very educated in the field of business. I believe that at times I just think that the educational perspective may not be as, he may not have the economic development perspective as vast as he has his educational knowings of economic development and business. But he really had that great accomplishment with San Juan, and I think that that's commendable as well. But at the end of the day, you know, Mr. Teclo Garcia to me is the individual for this position. I feel that he has a vast background in economic development, in business, in community relations, public affairs. He mentioned his workings with the bridge, with Fast Lane and other areas of that matter. But to me, I would choose Mr. Teclo Garcia.
I'm about to tie the game up because I would go with Ismael Delgado. Not much on terminology, but I think he was prepared. I think he studied. He was not only prepared for an interview, but to take the job already. He knew the issues of the city. He had not only one way of tackling the issues, he presented a variation of options with creative, as Arturo said, thinking outside of the box ideas where most of us are accustomed to seeing things one way, and he brought a different perspective, and not just the car dealership, but in other issues as well. And that's basically about it.
I mean, the goal that Teclo had about the editor in the newspaper, that's newspaper.
Well, I think it's a progressive approach of work experience as you're working for. I mean, I started as a caseworker for the Texas Department of Human Services. You see, so it's just based on your work experience as you're working up the ranks, and you're given opportunities. And
Some of the concept and theory behind having a staff member who excels and understands cross-training, multi-dimensional needs is someone who has been exposed to multiple professions. And so if you want to think about economic development and that's all you've done, but you haven't really been into practice, and if all you've done, let's say higher ed, I know higher ed, I know real estate, I know taxation laws, I know Section 8 housing, because you have those transferable skill sets that now you sit in front of a student and think, and you sit with a professor and understand the concept of bringing all these needs and resources together. And this is where we continue to talk about community development, which now is more and more gearing to community engagement. Is you need all these different skill sets because of who you're dealing with in the future, and what you're going to be exposed to is you need a diverse individual to come into these type of positions. When it comes to economic development, you need somebody who has experience in a little bit of everything to understand the concept of the workforce that is needed.
Yeah, the other thing is that I see with Teclo is that he's had some public relations experience, and I think, you know, for the city, it goes a long way. I mean, you also want to be able to maybe get tools, economic development tools from outside the city, and be able also to work within the tools here.
So what made me start down that hole of thinking the difference between both of them is the idea that there's an individual that's taught in multiple theories, who's kind of more fresh out of university, versus someone that's kind of learned on the job. Is what were the tools that the person that learned on the job had? Because compared to other cities, I'm not sure where Theclo, does anyone know this fact? Do they have like a 4A, 4B tax there?
I think
McAllen?
they do.
Yeah, they do.
McAllen,
Yeah, they do.
So my concern is you kind of learn how to play the game and you come to another city and some of the rules that were applicable in the league that he was playing in may not be in suitable, well, not suitable, but these,
So same.
we need those rules. No, we need those, like, you know, it would be great to have a 4A, 4B tax. But so my concern is someone nimble enough to think of creative ways in a city that may never have a 4A, 4B tax? And two, the state of Texas recently passed a real estate tax reform bill. I don't remember the exact bill number, but it's going to limit how much tax revenue cities can generate from real estate and how much they can increment it year over year. So how does that affect the budget when it comes to economic development? So knowing those things, that is kind of why, well, that's the predominant reason why I inched the other direction, because like I said, I do think that was qualified. My concern is are the rules going to apply in this city that he used to have in other cities that he's worked? So that's why I still because there's no question about qualifications on that. It's just kind of, do we need someone more creative that can do more with less, possibly? And that's why.
And the opposite from that, Julian, just to comment on that, is that this individual would have that experience also coming in to making a 4B work. But I understand what you're saying, like how is that gonna fit in with the city of Laredo? Is that that's your concern, right? Pretty much, what is he bringing in his experience in working with 4A, 4B? Is that what you're?
No, my concern is that we don't have
Right,
it, and they may not
He's
vote
had
to
all the
approve
tools
it.
right now, and now you're gonna limit him
Right.
to tools, so if you limit him to tools.
So, yeah, he's learned
Right.
with certain tools. Will we ever have those tools?
So it's
Because 44B has to be voted on, so
Well,
we
maybe
don't know.
in the same
But that's where
token, he
his
could
public
give us that
relations,
experience, yeah.
his public relations
With the
experience.
government.
Mr. Delgado, I do see him, I mean, right now, he just needs, he's been, academia, which is
Sure.
very good,
That's okay.
but I don't think he's got the contacts that Mr. Garcia has as far as, seems like Mr. Garcia knows, a lot of people out there and can probably, maybe if he has limited tools, can look at ways of bringing more tools.
Relationships is always a big asset.
Yeah.
It is.
Arturo, what?
The relationships you can get along the way.
No, that's
it's-
difficult.
But I
Relationships
I don't
are-
know what Mr. Delgado, honestly, his personality, I don't think to me, it didn't come across as one that is, to me, I saw more of an introvert than an extrovert.
Relationships are difficult to do. You're able to or you're not.
I think he mentioned something about Guaya's office. I think he mentioned something.
That he's worked with.
Yeah, that's his work.
No, I think that was Anthony.
Yeah.
I think that was
That was
Anthony.
not about it.
Okay.
So, just to confirm,
Anthony.
you all are requesting for us to give your top,
To give your recommendation to
a
management.
recommendation
Two
as
to
a
three.
committee.
As a
Okay,
committee.
two
So
or
we already
three.
saw that.
And I think that's what we've done already,
Same.
right?
Say
So
that.
we're gonna maybe hand it over, and I believe
Yeah,
that that's what the
because at the
committee.
end of the day, as a committee, we understand the community, we understand the concept, but then the most important and critical component is this team.
Yeah,
And if this team know what's going on in and out, because we're committee members, but we don't know the ins and outs like they do. And so you all now need to bring someone who's gonna balance the team, make the team even stronger. And so I think for the most part, we've all agreed that at least two or three, we're all comfortable with, correct? Because, my third
Oh,
would.
more than comfortable.
Well, my
I think they're
second, because
great.
again, I didn't get the pleasure of interviewing Ismael Delgado, and based on what I see or hear, is a good candidate.
There's no wrong decision.
And so for me, the second would be Mr. Moner. So I think either of those three, based on what I continue to hear from the gentleman, is These are our three. Would
So-
that be fair?
So in the dealership, then just, because this was what caught my
I didn't
eye.
interview, so I want to
In
say.
the dealership, because a lot of people wanted the Walmarts.
Okay, correct.
And you know, the Walmart is just a warehouse that doesn't generate as much personal proper, the personal tax, the
And
tax
consumes a
property.
lot of
Tax
services from
And
cities.
consumes a lot of, parking lot and stuff like that.
Correct.
So he went after, the approach was Mercedes-Benz to put a dealership. And he didn't just grab Mercedes, he looked at all of them, and he brought Audi,
Correct.
he brought everybody.
Maserati.
Yeah, it's
And he looked into.
He brought the top industries in the
Well,
we got the
dealership.
Not just saw at the dealership, he saw the mechanics that were in there, how much money they would make, how much money the salespeople, oh, he did his homework, that's really what caught my eye. And he
That's
wasn't fighting
academia.
for the other type of industries or
He
other.
gave them the project and said, this is why you need to be here, and he gave the data and evidence.
Very studious.
Yeah, he
He's
is.
a professor,
Well,
so.
but the-
And to
well, but the thing
me,
is, you know, it's a critical component. Again, if you talk to someone like myself, my profession is higher ed, I do pick, making a decision based on what?
Yeah.
Someone told you that that was a good idea, no, give me the stats, give me the numbers, like, show me that that we're gonna generate the revenue necessary, so you don't have to increase taxes, or you're gonna increase taxes because you need better resources, okay. I mean, you have to give and take, it's negotiation.
sales goes
And
so
it's
far.
seeing- Yes, correct.
And what gets it across the finish line constantly is going to be data and evidence. And that's what I felt that Ismael was going to be able to provide is he may not be the salesperson, but that's
Is
why
there
we
someone else
have
in the
these
city
great
that's
city
a-
managers here that can
Be the
be exactly. So it's more of a team effort.
If it goes
And-
back to them now, it's what is their need.
Yeah.
So again, I'm always thinking about, if I'm hiring, what do I need now? Or what do I need within the next
And how does
5,
it
10
function
years?
as a
And
team?
yes, because again, Declan may have the public relations that, but right now I need somebody economic development, data analysis, and can get me to sell this project, because I have the relationships that I need. All I need is this other component that I'm lacking in my team, and that's how you make an A team. What am I lacking? And so, again, at least as a committee member, my response to you, these are my top 3 choices. It would be, well, my 2 choices, Mr. Teclo Garcia and David Monarch for me, but based on the numbers, it seems that, and what you all are
Mr. Chair, I call
saying.
for the question regarding the motion to, whatever motion we're gonna call as the committee.
Okay, you asked for what now?
Call for the question.
Okay.
So,
Suggest two?
well. it's
Well,
up to
because
the
I think
committee.
we're like divided. So
Well, my recommendation
I
would
can't say
be-
two because I wasn't here for David, so just to make it fair.
Now, there is a video, so you could watch it.
So, I mean, in the realities that you have, I guess we're giving you the top 3. And I guess,
Mhm.
the city staff, we're giving you all the top 3, which is
Mr.
Pedro Garcia and,
Mr. Chair,
Mr.
I would recommend that we give him top 2.
okay.
I agree with
Okay,
that.
well, we'll give you the top 2. So, do I hear a motion of which are the top 2? I guess we've been talking about which is it, to me, it would be Teclo Garcia and Mr. Delgado.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay, so do I hear a motion?
Make a
Yeah, I wanna make a
motion
motion.
to recommend to management to continue on with the process for Teclo Garcia and Ismael Delgado as our 2 recommendations.
There's a motion, is there
Can someone else
Second.
second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Against.
Any
Can you
discussion?
call for the against,
Against.
just in case?
Are there any against those top 2?
I'm not against, so I don't know if it's an against, but I wasn't present for Ismael Delgado, so I can't vote for someone white was not present.
So you're abstaining?
Yes.
Okay. And everyone else is voting for it?
For those top 2? Yes.
I'm not sure if Robert already expressed his gratitude in what you guys are
No,
doing
we
for
haven't.
us.
No.
I really want to let you all know that you've taken a lot of work away from us and given us the top 2. And I'm sure that whoever ends up being selected, I know that Robert and I have been talking maybe about a meet and greet with council also, because it's also not only about the knowledge, but also being able to get along, you know.
And that's
with
what we
others.
discussed with.
Good.
That was good.
Because
Yeah.
the doctor's question was, well, what else? We've already ironed this out. He said, well, there's,
So we have our top 2. we
Mr.
have
Eid
our
said
weight.
there's, it's gotta fit in with you all. I mean, you've done
Yes. And so I really, really want to appreciate what you've done for us, because we're running 100 miles an hour and other stuff, and what you all did is amazing and fantastic. And so thank you all very much. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you too, you guys helped us put together a lot of
Yeah.
all of this information.
I-
Especially the packages with the numbers that helped.
And I firstly thank the department.
Yes.
The department was excellent.
HR was great,
Yes.
Patient.
That's all.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And of course, I think these gentlemen here and Ms. Hernandez are great,
For sure, for sure.
So-
It was good to have all of them. I'm very proud to be part of this committee with them. They bring a lot to the table.
So you all went
Thank
really
you for
fast
your
pace.
leadership as well.
On this, we also need to continue the pace really, really quick and do something.
Do you have
as
an
early as next
idea
week.
of,
Is there a timeline?
Well, as hopefully as, we're leaving out of town for an ethics/city managers meeting type thing we're going to do this week.
Those weren't up to us.
That's something we have to do. So
This is up to
next week is something, we'll work with our HR staff to do something like a meeting week for next week.
Yeah, but again, rest assured, we're sensitive to the timing, rest assured also, we don't want to keep pounding at the same thing. We're gonna inch this forward and progress it as fast as we can, because we don't want to lose any candidates, any one of these candidates.
that's my predominant concern.
Oh, no,
Yes.
no, we can't. I mean, that's not an
We can't
option for
afford
us.
that anymore.
No, we can't afford that, y'all can afford it, council can afford it. And so we're gonna move at that speed. In fact, we'll be contacting them today.
That's what I was about to ask, are you gonna call?
Oh, yeah.
I think Declan mentioned that, how fast they were gonna.
Yeah, they were all kind of
No, it was
asking me.
Alvarez, because he had 5 other interviews.
Well,
No,
really?
Ese ni me acuerdo.
Yeah.
I don't even
Well, he
remember.
didn't make it.
Oh,
I
so
do.
we're, yeah, that's true.
So we're okay.
So he actually
Somebody-
said that, I have all of the interviews?
Which.
Came with pictures, too.
Someone gave me a question of why.
It's okay.
I want to just publicly thank our fearless leader
So,
for chairing the committee and doing it so diligently, John.
Well, it wasn't me, it's really you all. Mayra, she started off with a list, and of course Julian and Arturo and you have always been there throughout, and Rafael for coming to everything, so, to all the meetings.
We're just a great team.
We're going to have a project for you guys.
Bring it up. What do you think, doctor? Only Rodney's a doctor.
Awesome.
No, great.
Perfect. Everybody
Thank
good to
you.
go?
Okay, what's that? Is there any other discussion on this topic? If not, do I hear a motion? Is there any, we haven't heard from HR.
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay.
Oh, and thank you for leading the interviews.
You're welcome.
Oh, yeah.
Very glad they heard.
Yeah. So I don't know if you all have any intake on.
Do you have any-
Input.
What do you feel?
Or maybe like to review the process.
Whatever you.
No,
Or
honestly,
would you rather discuss it with your?
with your management.
No, I like to hear.
It's just, they know that they can mention anything that they feel at
It's
any
not
time with
really
anyone, with or without a
But
certain.
don't give them the look after.
We'll talk.
You know, one recommendation, just me personally, is in the interview process, maybe reduce the questions a little bit, just so there's more discussion with the candidate. That's all I would recommend.
That is something that we discussed
Okay.
during it. To me, it should be no more than 10 questions total,
Okay.
so that you can produce that really good discussion regarding, if it's projects.
Yeah.
Somebody can be able to discuss a project from beginning to end, and then the measurement piece, well, then how do you know it was successful at all?
Thank you.
My take on this?
Yes, because of your lot, or what you showed us, what did you?
So for me, I really take into consideration job fit motivation. What motivates someone to want this position? And so I can tell you based off of the answers and what I heard all of them say. Mr. Garcia is more about, he will tell you exactly what you want to know and what he believes you need to hear in that moment. So he's very well versed, he's agile, he can
Is Lila
adapt.
that's here or he's going to
Sorry, Deco Garcia.
So top.
So he'll be able to tell you what you need, but then he'll be able to tell you what you need. So I'm not saying that that's not an asset, it is, as we discussed, public relations, but that's my take on him. As far as Mr. Delgado, his job fit motivation is really purely an altruistic one. He wants to see growth. He's there for the betterment of, I'm gonna say, humankind, right?
Yeah.
And so in terms of that, his motivation comes from within. It's a truly intrinsic one.
Sincere.
Like he's passionate about what he does and allowing the community to grow and stuff. And at least that's what I saw from the interview.
The third person really is Mr. Monkman because, I know we discussed him. For him, that the idea is to kind of progress and excel. And so he's really thinking about, he's not thinking the next 5 years, he's thinking the next 30, 50 years. And he wants to be a part of what happens, kind of be the foundation of what happens then. So those are the three candidates in terms of that.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So there was a motion
Thank you
to
for-
adjourn, there was a second.
Turkettle, I hope I didn't. Turkettle. Anything?
No, and just with what Melina, it's the same aspect of my thinking process with them, in that same perspective, in the same order actually, that goes more in the sense of hearing what you want to hear at that moment individually, but Mr. Delgado is more analytical, researched, does his homework to kind of look at it in a bigger picture outside the box.
In other words, we get all these three men to
See,
maybe
before-
one other person.
So we divide the salary among something else.
Just like three managers.
I like this from you, I
Well,
like this from you, and I like
anything
him.
from
Make-
city staff, from our city managers?
No, again, we'll thank you again. Rosario is entirely correct. We take this, even though we joke a lot, but we take it very seriously because we expect and we hope that this person becomes a part of the fabric of not just the city, but city employees, but of the community. Because this person, I would hope would become, intertwined with different associations, with the different community groups. And so that's why it's really important to get the right person, because this person does have to be in there at the table, doing the job that we need him or her to do. So, thank you again.
Thanks.
I like when he said, even if I don't make it, I want to see what the result of this. I mean, I
Yeah,
really-
that's true. That was his closing
I
statement.
like that. That was just my observation.
Who said that?
He's my,
Oh, I didn't.
like he cared, even though I were here, I want to know.
Seems a sentiment. I missed a good interview.
Well, you can go back and.
Yeah, we're gonna make it.
Yeah,
Right,
I
you
tried
should
to
go
go
back
to
and-
see, maybe I can score if I see, but I didn't find it. So
I think
don't know
like
if it was
Corvino
posted yet.
Tecla's just got that, and he's been around, and he can, but anyway, so much.
Let's get a motion.
Motion first.
Is there a motion for?
I'll have a hard task.
It was already, it was the first and the second.
In favor? Aye, carried.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
That was correct.